$800 in the bag. 45 minutes in the store. One phrase, repeated like, "It ain't that cute," 8 times before the kid at the counter even hit total. The receipts don't just tell you what they spent. They tell you why they went in the first place. If this kind of story is your speed, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe and the bell, because what I'm about to walk you through isn't shopping haul. It's a diagnosis. And the mall wasn't the clinic. The mall was the waiting room. Because that's the thing about public people once the walls between their life and their content rot out. Nothing is ever just a stop at the store. Nothing is ever just, we had to grab something quick. Not when the phone is up. Not when the chat is voting. Not when the timing is this loud. Not when both names in the frame already come with court paperwork, old footage, family fractures, and a fan base trained to turn every side eye into a theory. At that point, the shopping bag stops being a shopping bag. It becomes a document, a prop, a little luxury-colored affidavit saying, "Look, we're fine. We're outside. We're moving. We're normal." And the more aggressively a clip tries to look normal, the more I start checking the seams. Here's what happened in the bones. Mid-November 2025. Give or take. The live timestamp keeps drifting because Blueface was still mid-promotion of his return. Jonathan Porter, freshly out of North Kern State Prison about a week earlier after serving roughly 2 years of a 4-year probation violation bite, walks into a Burberry in a Southern California mall with Chrisean Rock. Their stated mission, matching outfits for a Dodgers game at 7:30. And they were already 30 minutes late. Their actual mission, content. 2 parents of a 1-year-old, both wrapped in different felony weather. His a $13 million civil hammer from a Las Vegas strip club shooting. Hers an Oklahoma charge that could still send her away for up to 8 years. Picking out coordinated workwear like 2 kids dressing the same for picture day. Thurberex's moment says date. The receipts say performance. And that freshly out part matters more than the internet lets it matter. KGD reported Blueface had been admitted to North Kern on September 4th to continue serving a 4-year sentence after turning himself in for a probation violation tied to the 2021 Skinny's lounge assault case, with his sentence at the time expected to end in January 2026. So if he's outside by early November, that mall walk isn't random civilian life resuming. It's one of the first public images after confinement. That's not just wardrobe shopping. That's image reentry. That's a man stepping back into the economy of attention the second the gate swings open, because silence doesn't pay and ordinary doesn't trend. And Chrisean being in that frame is not some small cosmetic detail either. Complex reported that when she got out on September 6th, 2024, after about 3 months behind bars on drug-related charges, she was talking about being thankful to be home in time to celebrate her son's first birthday window. Same article notes she still faced serious exposure in Oklahoma, with up to 8 years possible on that case, while Blueface was serving prison time on his own probation violation. So before you even get to the polo shirts and the mirror angles and the price tag shock, the people in the clip are already carrying an entire backlog of legal instability into a luxury store. That's why the scene feels heavier than the scene wants to feel. Let me lay out the actual quotes from the clip. Hear them the way I heard them, before I start pulling the thread. The reason I'm pausing here is because people love to run straight to the opinion. They skip the raw material and sprint to the verdict. But with this kind of content, tone is evidence. Cadence is evidence. Repetition is evidence. The order in which things get said matters. What somebody says to the sales associate matters. What they say to the partner matters. What they say to the chat matters even more. Because once you know who the performance is really for, the whole clip stops sounding romantic and starts sounding transactional. Clip 1, the mission statement. Blueface mid-rack, talking to the sales associate. She's looking for something matching. Girl and guy sequence. Let's go to Burberry. She already got the brown and white. The associate stays calm, professional, aware he's standing in the middle of a live stream with 40,000 people watching, and starts pulling jackets. Chrisean, watching a polo on the rack. I'm going to just do a polo. I like them a white shirt. Blueface stops her. I'm a go no jacket chat. I'll wear the jacket. I don't know. It's whatever you want. Then, I'm going to go no jacket, and I'm going to get a belt instead. Listen, 30 seconds. He goes from the chat says jacket to I'm wearing the jacket to no jacket belt. That's not a man choosing an outfit. That's a man choosing an audience. He literally addresses the chat by name mid-fitting. The chat say jacket. They said jacket. He treats the subscriber count like a co-pilot in the relationship. And that's the first hidden mechanic right there. Not the jacket, the delegation. A private couple decision gets passed up to the live stream like a referendum. People hear that and think it's funny. I hear that and think, okay, so now even taste has an audience. Even aesthetics need witnesses. Even a basic yes or no rack decision has to be fed through the machine before it becomes real. When somebody lives that way long enough, sincerity starts feeling expensive. It costs too much to be unobserved. So instead of, what do I want to wear? The real question becomes, what version of me plays best right now? Once you've clocked that, every later contradiction in the store makes more sense. Clip 2, the color. This one's going to be clipped and recirculated for months, because the internet never lets these things rest. Blueface, mid-fitting on the blue button-up. If I say, you a pretty light-skinned girl, is that colorist? Or you a pretty red bone? You're a pretty Mexican girl. Then he walks it. I said something. I said what I said, but I ain't said like how they clipped it. I didn't even say what I said. A circulating clip from this same stream reportedly shows Chrisean saying dark-skinned women hate themselves because they're so dark. And both of them have been walking those soundbites back on every podcast. Invite they get Chrisean Rock colorism clip. I'm not relitigating the clip. I'm leaving it exactly where it is, on the family side of this channel. Acknowledged, then parked. But even parking it tells you something. The fact that it appears here at all, in a store, in the middle of what is supposedly a simple matching fit run, shows how incapable this whole ecosystem is of staying in one register. It can't just be clothing. It has to turn into race discourse, clickbait, self-defense, pre-spin, and then semi-denial inside of the same breath. He says it, then starts litigating how it will be clipped before the clip even finishes becoming a clip. That's not normal speech. That's somebody talking while already imagining the repost page. That's content creator brain at its rawest. Live in the moment, but also live 3 reposts ahead of the moment. Clip 3, the price. Blueface lifts the bag, asks the chat. Chat, how much you guys think this is going to cost? Let's get a rough estimate. The associate rings it. Total comes back. Blueface says, 5,800, it ain't that cute. Says it again. It ain't that cute. Says it 4 more times walking out. 8. Counted. 8 times the man who just bought the bag tells anyone listening that the bag was a mistake. Now this is where the clip stops being about luxury and starts being about self-indictment. Because if you really wanted the fit, the price hurts once. Maybe twice. You say damn. You laugh. You keep it moving. But 8 repetitions? That's not surprise. That's buyer's remorse trying to perform as comedy. That's a man doing a public negotiation with his own purchase after the transaction is already irreversible. It's almost like he's trying to retroactively soften the decision by narrating against it. Like if he says, it ain't that cute enough times, the audience will understand this wasn't recklessness, just content inflation. But receipts don't work that way. They do not care how funny you become after the swipe. Clip 4, the closer. The last exchange in the parking structure. Blueface. We only can wear it one time, Chad. What? Who made up this rule? Like why people, what they ain't wearing clothes. This is crazy. Then to Chrisean. I know. $5,000 for this fit though. She says, I got you. He finishes. We both got a fit. Yeah, but it ain't that. It ain't $5,000 cute. Okay. And the one-time part is the tell inside the tell. Because now he's not just debating whether the purchase was worth it. He's revealing the actual governing rule of the purchase, visibility. If the outfit is for one event, then the cost isn't really for fabric. It's for that appearance, that post, that moment, that image of coordinated existence. He's basically saying out loud that the item has only one real use value inside the attention economy. One wearing, one post cycle, one memory, one clip package. After that, the item enters the dead closet of content casualties. That's why he sounds irritated. He's not reacting like a shopper. He's reacting like a producer who knows the prop cost more than the scene. Now the timeline. This is where it gets loud, where 90% of the takes online miss the actual news. A lot of internet commentary breaks, because people talk about these stories like all the dates float in the same soup. They don't. Sequence is everything. Who got out when? Who was inside when? Who was on probation when? Who was fighting what case when? Put the dates in the wrong order, and you can turn a staged reset into a sweet reunion by accident. Put them in the right order, and suddenly the tenderness people keep trying to locate starts looking more like logistics. November 3rd, 2025. Blueface walks out of prison. Real name, Jonathan Michael Porter. Real sentence, 4 years, probation violation tied to a 2021 assault at Skinny's Lounge in the San Fernando Valley. He and 3 other men accused of attacking a doorman at the club. Roughly 2 years served, released under California's realignment net Blueface, North Kern transfer. That release is not a pardon. It's a gate. KGD's reporting is blunt on the bones of that case. He had been on probation since 2021 for the Skinny's Lounge assault matter, and the bouncer in that case was reportedly taken to the hospital and needed stitches. So the prison storyline didn't come from nowhere. It didn't materialize out of celebrity chaos in the abstract. It came from an underlying violence case that never really disappeared, then resurfaced through a probation violation hard enough to turn a rapper into an inmate with an expected end date on paper. That's important because the post-release mall clip isn't detached from the prison story. It's a continuation of it. It's chapter after the lockup, not chapter after a vacation. 5 days later, he is in a mall, on camera, shopping. That turnaround is insane when you actually sit with it. 5 days is barely enough time for most people to clear their head, reconnect with family, handle private obligations, and remember what silence sounds like. But for people whose income and identity are braided into visibility, 5 days is a drought. 5 days is dead air. 5 days is a hole in the feed. So yes, of course he is back on stream. Of course it happens somewhere brightly lit. Of course the partner with history is in frame. Of course the chat gets a vote. That's not spontaneity. That's the speed of an attention business restarting itself. Here's the part one wants you to sit with. While he was inside his ex, Chrisean Rock, born Chrisean Eugenia Malone out of West Baltimore, one of 12 kids, father mostly incarcerated, mother in and out of addiction, was doing her own stretch. Drug-related charges. 3 months in a county jail. Released September 6, 2024, 3 days before their son, Chrisean Jesus Malone Jr., turned 1. The first birthday party for Jr., thrown by Blueface's father, Jonathan Papa Blue Porter. Not by Blueface. Not by Chrisean. By Granddad. Because that's the version of normalcy the family has had to build around the fact that 2 of the 3 parenting-capable adults in the child's life are unavailable most of the time. And the West Baltimore background is not throwaway biography either. Wikipedia's summary of Chrisean's early life says she grew up with 12 siblings, a father in prison for most of her childhood, and a mother struggling with addiction, with periods of homelessness in the mix. I bring that up for one reason only. Instability has a rhythm. People who grow up around constant unpredictability often get very fluent in chaos, very fast. Not because they love it, because they know how to survive in it. So when folks watch this mall clip and ask why she seems so adapted to the weirdness, that's part of the answer. Not all of it, but part. Some people don't enter turbulence. They recognize it. Complex also notes that after her September 2024 release, she publicly framed simply being home near her son's first birthday as a blessing, while Blueface's father was the one who had thrown the birthday party. That's the kind of tiny factual detail that says more than 1,000 live stream captions ever could, because adults can call themselves co-parents online all day long. The birthday cake tells you who was physically available. The party host tells you who the backup system had to be. So when Burberry hits, hold that in the same hand as the matching button-ups. The real story isn't the price. The real story is who isn't at the mall. That's what gives the whole thing its ache. The most important person tied to both of them is not in the frame. The child is absent. The grandparents are absent. The paperwork is absent. The court dates are absent. Responsibility is absent. What is present? Fabric. Fluorescent lighting. sales staff patience, a phone camera, a running commentary about whether a fit is worth $5,000. That's why this doesn't land like domestic bliss to me. It lands like avoidance with excellent branding. Fast forward the clock. The Vegas case. October 8th, 2022. Outside Euphoric Gentlemen's Club off the Strip. A man gets shot in the hand. The victim said he recognized Blueface in the venue earlier that night. Allegedly, and the court documents use that framing. The victim made a crack about Blueface, speaking with some females in a cheap vehicle. A gun came out. The strip club's licenses got revoked 6 days later. The owner sued for nuisance and lost revenue. Blueface's attorney never filed an opposition to the summary judgment. The judge awarded nearly $13.1 million to a shuttered business. That ruling landed while Blueface was still inside. Chrisean's write-up, pulling from 8 News Now reporting in court documents, lays out how brutal that civil outcome was. The plaintiff's side said the club's licenses were revoked on October 14th. 2022 as a direct result of the shooting, and the judge ultimately ordered Blueface to pay roughly $12.6 million in lost revenue plus additional damages that pushed the total to nearly $13.1 million. The court granted summary judgment after Porter failed to file an opposition. Read that again slowly. This is not just he lost a case. This is a case where one side's numbers became devastatingly real because the other side didn't even get a formal wall-up in time. And once a number like that gets attached to your name, everything public after it changes tone. Every purchase gets read sideways. Every flashy moment acquires a second soundtrack. Every designer logo now shares screen space with the civil judgment hovering over it like a ghost subtitle. That's not fair in a spiritual sense maybe, but it is absolutely how the audience processes money. People do mental arithmetic with celebrities, whether the celebrities consent or not. So a $5,800 store run doesn't remain a shopping clip when the public also knows there's an 8-figure legal obligation in the background. It becomes a provocation. Actually, hold on. Back up. This is the part. Because the Vegas judgment isn't just large. It's narratively poisonous. It wrecks the innocence of every luxury flex after it. Before that number, a Burberry stop can still kind of pretend to be about mood. After that number, the mood is gone. Now every item is haunted by the question. Paid with what? Against what? Wallowing what? And even if somebody wants to insist that celebrity cash flow doesn't work like household budgeting, that misses the cultural point. The audience doesn't need an accounting ledger to feel the contradiction. They only need the headline and the shopping bag. Stack the family calendar against the mall trip, and the trip stops looking like romance. It starts looking like rehabilitation footage. He needs to be seen doing normal things, because the next time a Twitter mob writes his obituary, the receipts being a happy shopping clip beats the receipts being a $13 million judgment. So the matching outfits, they aren't matching outfits. They're a press release. And Chrisean, walking her own 8-year probation shadow, is a co-senior. And there's a whole influencer-era playbook behind that move. Public chaos gets followed by soft-focus normalcy. Court talk gets buffered by outside with family. Brutal headlines get rinsed in lifestyle content. None of this has to be formally coordinated by management for it to function like management. The instinct can be organic and still be strategic. People who live online learn the grammar of image, repair the same way other people learn traffic patterns. They know what a grocery clip does. They know what a kid clip does. They know what a luxury clip does. They know what a we're matching clip does. Every category comes with a preloaded emotional shortcut. This one says stability, romance, and access, even while the rest of the facts are screaming the opposite. Now the forensic pass. I'm not going to quote the whole stream at you. I'm going to point at the parts the average clip walker misses. And for me, forensic doesn't mean conspiracy board nonsense. It means attention to rhythm. Where does the camera linger? Who gets consulted? Who gets ignored? What gets repeated? What gets rushed? What gets made into a joke because it can't be made into a confession? Those are the little mechanics that tell you what a clip is trying to hide from itself. Lens 1, behavioral. Blueface asks his chat to vote on whether he wears a jacket. Not asking Chrisean, asking chat. Then re-asks. Then re-asks again. In the span of one fitting. That's the behavior of a man whose decision-making has been outsourced to the live viewer count. It's also the behavior of a man who has learned, through 3 years of criminal exposure, 2 prison gates, for child situations, a 13 mil judgment, that whoever owns his attention owns the outcome. Right now that owner is the bell icon. That behavior also creates a weird triangle in real time. Him, her, and the audience sitting between them like an invisible third partner. So even if Chrisean is physically right there, she still isn't the sole person being played to. She shares the interaction with thousands of strangers who get to react, influence, clown, validate, and redirect. That's why so much couple content feels spiritually lonely even when 2 bodies are next to each other. The intimacy has already been subcontracted. Lens 2 visual. Watch the moment Chrisean emerges from the dressing room in the blue matching set. Blueface flat. You look really good. I like that on you. You look slick. Like slick. Slick blue. Then he pivots, almost like his brain catches him being sincere. What is that? Why that's like that? What you doing with that? That pivot, compliment, retreat, complaint, is the whole dynamic in 2 sentences. He's more comfortable teasing her than accepting that he likes her. That pivot matters because it shows the emotional gear shift. Sincerity appears, then instantly gets nerfed. Warmth enters, then gets diluted with confusion, a joke, or a correction. It's like he can approach tenderness, but not stay there long without making fun of it or scrambling it. And if you've watched enough internet relationships built partly in public, you know that move. Straight affection gets treated like overexposure. A joke becomes the safer mask. So the compliment survives, but only after being bent sideways. Lens 3, audio forensics. Midstream, Chrisean catches Blueface swiping for her in a drawer, allegedly looking at the price tags she said she didn't want to know about. He turns the phone away fast, then admits it casually. I'm trying to see what it looked like. If you've ever shopped with someone who knows nothing and says everything, you've heard this sentence out of a 40-year-old at a Target checkout. He's not being cheap. He's being watched. And being watched is the operative phrase. People keep flattening that moment into he's broke, or he's stingy, or he's flexing. Maybe some of all 3. But the stronger read is surveillance pressure. He knows the viewers are listening for the price. He knows somebody is going to isolate his face at checkout. He knows the amount is going to become the whole story. So he starts rehearsing his reaction before the total is even fully digested. That's not money confidence. That's anticipatory damage control. Lens 4, status signaling. Burberry is not the loudest luxury logo in the world, but it's loud enough to read from across a frame and classic enough to carry class aspirations without looking too try-hard. That's exactly why it works for this sort of clip. It's expensive, recognizable, and clean. You can turn a Burberry bag into an argument about taste faster than you can turn a no-name boutique bag into one. The purchase doesn't just clothe them. It gives the live stream a dialect. It says, don't read this as random. Read this as elevated. Read this as we belong in this store, in this image, in this tier. Lens 5, time pressure. The Dodgers game deadline keeps getting mentioned, but the energy never really feels like 2 people earnestly trying not to miss first pitch. It feels like 2 people using "we're late" as narrative seasoning. That matters because urgency in content often functions like a pressure pump. It forces decisions. It makes viewers stay. It gives the clip momentum. If they're truly just late, that's one thing. If being late is part of the entertainment texture, that's another. Either way, the countdown adds a layer of performance, tension the trip can feed on. Nowhere in that stream is there a moment that resembles 2 people quietly in love. The whole trip is curated loneliness. Nevea Akira, Blueface's new partner, internet personality, announced on Instagram Live weeks before this stream that she was pregnant with Blueface's 4th child, his first with her Blueface partnership timeline. That detail alone reframes the whole clip. What is clearly documented is that Blueface's romantic life was publicly unstable by this period, and Wikipedia's biographical summary says that by February 2026, he publicly announced Nevea Akira was pregnant with their first child together, his 4th child overall, even without litigating the exact micro timestamp of every rumor and livestream crossover. The broader point holds. The public surrounding these two was not reading them inside some clean reunion arc. There were already too many other names, too many denials, too many contradictions in the air, which means the Burberry clip did not enter a neutral landscape. It entered a crowded narrative market already primed for jealousy edits, triangle theories, redemption readings, and family-side argument. Now the media split. And this is one of my favorite parts to study, because gossip ecosystems almost always reduce to two lazy frames, when the truth is uglier and more commercial than either one. Frame 1, the cruelty frame. The shade room and the gossip runs. She's with a man who won't claim her son, walking out of Burberry on a bag he keeps calling ugly. Angle, she should leave. Angle, he's spending money he doesn't have on a relationship he won't admit to his own family. Angle, 13 million in debt and a mall receipt with matching boots. That frame survives because it gives the audience a hero script. Leave him. Stand up. Choose yourself. It's emotionally satisfying, morally crisp, and portable. The problem is it treats exit like an Uber. It assumes leaving a high-conflict public entanglement is a clean administrative act. It rarely is, especially when co-parenting, public identity, legal stress, money instability, audience incentives, and mutual monetization are all entangled in the same knot. Okay, but here's the part of frame 1 nobody's saying out loud. The argument presupposes Chrisean has alternatives. She's 25. She has a felony probation shadow in 2 states. She has a baby whose father publicly denies paternity on Instagram. She is, in the legal sense, in her second courtroom in 18 months. The cruelty frame is luxury. It presumes you can exit on a Tuesday and start fresh by Wednesday. The system she's in doesn't rotate that fast. Wikipedia's overview of her legal problems shows just how stacked the background noise has been. The Oklahoma possession case, probation and community service issues, the fugitive phase attached to the warrant situation, plus multiple other criminal and civil allegations in different states over roughly the same era. Again, none of that excuses behavior. It explains environment. There's a difference. And if you don't understand that difference, you end up pretending every decision happens on a clean white table with no prior conditions attached. Frame 2, the redemption frame. The hip-hop podcasts run the opposite take. Blueface is home. He's shopping for his family. He's growing. This is the let the man live frame. It is also, respectfully, the frame his own team would prefer to push. That frame lives off appetite too. Audiences love a return story. They love the first haircut after jail, the first link-up, the first I'm back outside, the first evidence that maybe chaos has matured into something stable. But redemption branding always arrives earlier than redemption itself. The image shows up first. The behavior change, if it's real, takes longer. Sometimes a lot longer. Sometimes it never arrives, and only the branding does. Both of those frames miss the actual third, the content industrial frame. Listen, this mall trip is a set piece. The Dodgers game, the receipt moment, the 8 times repeated, it ain't that cute. Every beat of this was quoted for a TikTok. The stream was a production that paid for itself in subscriber growth and clip currency. We, you, me, the ones watching this, are a downstream consequence. The mall was the studio. The Burberry bag was the prop. The pronoun game, she said jacket. I said jacket, Chet said jacket. I said no jacket, was the editing. The figure, reportedly $5,800, was the hook the algorithm saw and spread Blueface partnership timeline. The third frame is the one that explains why the contradictions don't break the scene. They power it. In a normal relationship clip, confusion weakens the romance. In content, confusion strengthens distribution. Mixed signals clip harder. Awkwardness reposts better. A half compliment followed by a jab gets more reaction than smooth chemistry ever will. So what looks unstable at the human level can still be highly efficient at the platform level. That's the whole sickness of it. Dysfunction is expensive in life, but profitable in clips. That's the read no one's going to print. And it's the one I respect most because it doesn't require me to pretend a man with a $13 million judgment is in a position to spontaneously drop his court-stipulated skim on coordinated Burberry workwear. It also doesn't require me to flatten Chrisean into either saint or fool. That's another trap the internet loves. She gets reduced to victim when people want a morality tale, and reduced to mastermind when people want a hustle story. She might be neither in full. She might be what a lot of people in these systems become. Both participant and casualty. Both agent and product. Both choosing and getting chosen by the machine at the same time. That's a much harder story to tell, which is why most pages don't tell it. Okay, now the part I've been thinking about for a while. The unspoken take. When public relationship math gets this messy, the most revealing thing is not always what gets said. It's what nobody bothers clarifying because clarification would kill the engagement. Ambiguity is fuel. A clean answer ends the comments. A muddy answer buys another week. 3 weeks before them all, Nevaeh Akira's pregnancy was already public. By the time Blueface told Chrisean she looked slick in the blue button-up by the fitting room mirror, the wider internet already knew another woman was carrying his child. Even if you step back from the exact chronology and just focus on the public atmosphere around Blueface relationships, the temperature was already hot enough that any appearance with Chrisean was guaranteed to be read through somebody else's name. That's what happens when your personal life becomes serialized content. No interaction belongs only to the people in it anymore. Every frame inherits the previous frame's mess. Every new woman, ex, denial, or livestream declaration becomes part of the lighting. That's the part you'd have to try very hard to miss. And he was live the whole time. Either Blueface didn't care if Chrisean saw the pregnancy news, which would make the Burberry trip something closer to a hostage tape than a date, or he figured the chat, shouting out his pregnant girlfriend's name from the back of the stream, would absorb the drama. Could also be he didn't think it through at all. The last option is the most on-brand. Probably the right one. And I don't say on-brand as a joke. I mean literally on-brand. Public impulsiveness has become part of the product. Contradiction isn't an interruption of the persona. It's an ingredient in it. So when people ask, how could he not realize how this looks? My answer is always, because how this looks is often the whole point. Not in some genius puppet master way. In a much sloppier, more modern way. If the confusion creates motion, the confusion did its job. Take your pick. None of the three is flattering. All of them are available. Now the pivot. Here's a thought I haven't seen anyone else float. The store choice is a form of speech. That's what people miss when they focus only on the total. Stores have emotional dialects. You walk into one store and say necessity. Another says trend chasing. Another says luxury without taste. Another says stealth wealth. Another says, I need the bag logo in the shot. So when a person under this much public pressure chooses Burberry instead of something cheaper, easier, or quieter, that is not just commerce. That is semiotics. They are selecting the sentence. They want the camera to speak on their behalf. Burberry wasn't the only store in the mall. There were matching sets at the outlets in Huntington Park, Target, H&M, a small black-owned boutique 2 levels, down doing coordinated couple sets under 200. Blueface went to Burberry. He went to Burberry on camera with his ex and their chat. That's not a shopping preference. That's a brand decision. And brand decisions, when your net worth is a negative number after the Vegas judgment, are about optics, not taste. Burberry also solves another problem. It lets you look coordinated quickly. Pattern, palette, inherited prestige. No explanation needed. If you're building a clip under time pressure and you want the audience to instantly understand, these are expensive matching outfits. You don't need subtlety. You need brand recognition at 30 feet and in a compressed repost. That doesn't make the store choice fake. It makes it functional. That's the pivot. Read it twice. Optics. Not love. Not partnership. Not healing. Optics. The matching outfit wasn't matching. It was merchandising. I'll go further. In 6 months, somebody on a podcast will point at this Burberry trip as evidence that Blueface and Chrisean got back together. They didn't. They got re-platformed together. The product is their cohabitation. The distribution channel is his subscriber base. And the consumer is the audience looking for a sequel to the Zeus network run. The match set is the cover art. And re-platforming is a better word than reconciliation because it explains why the chemistry can feel both familiar and hollow. Familiar, because audiences have history with them. Hollow, because the scene doesn't really advance the emotional story. It refreshes the franchise. That's different. Franchises survive on recurring iconography. The bickering, the matching, the unresolved tension, the are they or aren't they bait, the family side commentary, the fan moral warfare. Give the audience those ingredients, and they'll generate the rest of the storyline on their own. Now the jab pile. Pressure on the counter-narrative. Because every bad discourse cycle around these two comes with a stack of takes that sound bold for 6 seconds and collapse the minute you push on them. To the take that says Chrisean is using Blueface for money, be honest, this is the loudest one online. What's the money? 13 million of it is going to a Vegas plaintiff. Chrisean is dating the liquidity, not the asset. And even that joke lands harder once you remember how precarious his public image was around the prison release stretch. KGD had him on paper serving a sentence tied to the probation violation. KXAN had the giant Las Vegas civil number attached to his name. Wikipedia has the personal life contradictions and paternity chaos sitting right there in the biographical summary. That's not a portrait of clean wealth. That's a portrait of unstable celebrity economics. Money moving, debt looming, image still monetizable, reality increasingly expensive. To the take that says Blueface is the victim of a toxic X narrative, relax. The man got out a week ago. He hasn't deboarded the prison structure. He's online. He's filming. He's still billing. Victim language is generous and premature. Also, the record here is not of a man dragged unwillingly into public chaos. It is of a man repeatedly choosing public chaos as a format. That's different. Somebody can absolutely be inside a destructive cycle and still also be one of the people feeding it. Those truths are not enemies. They're roommates. To the take that says this is just a couple doing couple things. How many couple things begin with a chat vote on jackets and end with a man telling the camera 8 times the bag isn't cute? That's not a couple. That's a set. And not even a very subtle set. It's one of those sets where the camera tripod might as well be the third wheel. The relationship does not get to exist unobserved long enough to become ordinary. Every small interaction has to clear the bar of clip-worthiness. That is not the rhythm of everyday affection. That's production. To the take that says I should defend Chrisean because she's a young mother with limited options. No. She's a grown woman whose reality TV profile is built on the same dynamic this small clip shows. She's not a hostage. She's a producer. She gets a cut. But let's not mistake producer for fully in control. A lot of people become excellent producers of the only kind of life the market has consistently rewarded from them. That's not freedom. That's adaptation. It's still agency. Just agency under pressure. And that distinction matters if you're serious about reading these people as humans instead of archetypes. To the whack 100 wing of the internet saying Blueface needs to stay focused. He's been saying that for 6 years. Man is not going to stay focused. He's going to keep streaming, keep buying bags, keep denying paternity on camera, and keep telling himself after every bag that it ain't that cute. That's the identity now. Accept it. If anything, the instability is part of the recognizability. A fully settled, quiet, disciplined Blueface might be healthier. He might also be less algorithmically legible to the audience that got trained on spectacle. That's the perverse tax of internet fame. The same traits that damage a life can become the traits that keep the lights on. And to the take that says this is content, and therefore somehow fake, 2 things can be true. The matching outfits can be real fabric, and the meaning behind them can be completely synthetic. Marriage isn't the product. The matching button-ups are not a wedding. They're a billboard. Read the billboard and stop asking me if the wedding is real. That's one of the most important distinctions in the whole modern celebrity economy. Authenticity and instrumentation are not opposites anymore. Something can really happen and still be strategically useful. A pregnancy can be real and also content. A breakup can be real and also rollout fuel. A shopping trip can be real and also a rehab narrative. The camera doesn't erase reality. It contaminates it. Closing thought. Then forward motion. Because once you stop asking whether the clip is sincere and start asking what the clip is doing, a lot of weird little details suddenly lock into place. The most clarifying line in this whole clip is also the most boring one. It's not the colorism take. It's not the $13 million headline. It's Blueface at minute 34, picking up a gray polo off the rack, fully exasperated. All right, let's make it quick. Actually, where we going? He had forgotten, in real time, where they were going. The whole trip was structured around a baseball game. He couldn't remember the location of mid-purchase. Running late to something he didn't want, buying things he admitted he didn't like, with someone he's known for 5 years and still can't quite figure out how to dress next to in a mall. The chat funded the whole thing. And that is such a devastatingly ordinary line that it almost slips by. Where we going? Not spiritually. Literally. He momentarily loses the destination of the event justifying the entire purchase. That tiny lapse tells you the trip was never anchored in the destination. The destination was decorative. The real event was the shopping itself. The real product was the wandering, the debate, the spending, the commentary, the repetitive regret, the chemistry test, the public confusion. The Dodgers game is almost a prop inside the prop. Mall receipts don't lie. Receipts always tell you what they meant to buy, and what they accidentally bought instead. What they meant to buy: a fit, a moment, a normal-looking outing, a little image detergent. What they accidentally bought: more evidence, more pattern, more documentation of how attention governs them, more proof that every attempt at simple public normalcy between these two eventually mutates into a sociology lesson. Forward motion. 3 tracks. And these aren't prophecy tracks. They're just the 3 most likely directions the existing incentives pull toward if nothing fundamental changes. Track 1, the gameplay line. Don't be surprised when, in the next 45 days, Blueface drops a song or a snippet using footage from this very stream. The $5,800 Burberry recap is already a single cover image. The Dodgers game is already a music video B-roll setup. The chat shoutouts in the back are already a hook. Watch for the SoundCloud drop between Thanksgiving and the first week of December. He hasn't had a proper solo cycle since the incarceration arc. This is the reset single. The clip is the EP. And if it doesn't become literal cover art, it still works as narrative pre-roll. That matters. A comeback doesn't just need music. It needs scenes. It needs lore. It needs visual evidence that the artist is back in the world. Stores, cars, stadium parking structures, fit checks, side dialogue. All that stuff becomes cheap mythology. Fans don't only consume songs anymore. They consume the runway leading into the song. Track 2, the Breakup or Bigger track line. Watch how Chrisean handles the first time Blueface and Nevaeh Akira's pregnancy get visually referenced in their joint stream. Either the relationship gets more digital and less physical, with shopping trips going from mall to mall all over again, but with shorter bags, receipts under $400 because the camera person changed, or Chrisean starts appearing solo on Zeus-adjacent feeds, doing guest spots while the matching sets quietly stop matching. Either way, the matching gimmick burns out by spring 2026. The algorithm has a half-life for couple content, and this couple's shelf life is shorter than the average because the suspense is gone. The baby's paternity is already contested in the court of public opinion. And to be clear, couple content usually dies in one of 2 ways. Either the conflict dries up and the audience leaves because peace is boring to people who arrived for mayhem, or the conflict intensifies until somebody rebrands solo because sharing the frame becomes too expensive. With these 2, the second route has always looked more plausible than the first. There's just too much external pressure, too much prior hurt, too much public bookkeeping, too many side characters, too much audience co-authorship. Track 3, the Aftershock. This is the one everyone walks past. In 5 years, Chrisean Jr. is going to be a kindergartner. His father is going to be a man with a $13 million judgment that's been gaining interest, possibly still in some version of probation sunset, with a new baby and a public denial of his existence. His mother will have either finished her Oklahoma case or started a new docket somewhere else. Papa Blue, currently the only adult throwing the birthday parties, will still have never worn a matching Burberry set to prove he loved somebody. Every moment from this mall will be retrievable on YouTube in 5 years. The kid will be old enough to watch. That is the residue. The clip roll. That's the aftershock people consistently underrate with streamer-era family drama. Nothing evaporates. The old generations could say dumb, cruel, impulsive things in a room, and maybe the room remembered. This generation says them on devices and feeds across archives, with fan pages doing free indexing labor 24 hours a day. A child does not just inherit genes and habits anymore. He inherits searchable footage, searchable conflict, searchable denials, searchable birthdays missed, and outfits purchased and bags regretted. That's not metaphor. That's infrastructure. One last beat. The last stream before the Burberry clip went viral. Blueface asked his chat to vote on whether the receipts were worth it. The chat, which had spent the trip shouting jacket, 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 went silent. He held the bag up. The bag had no opinion. The bag never does. And that silence is maybe the cleanest ending possible for a scene like this. Because after all the noise, the chat guidance, the relationship projection, the luxury signaling, the courtroom ghosting the background, the public trying to decide who's using who, all you really have left is the object. A bag. Fabric. A total on a receipt. The object never testifies in your favor. It only sits there and reflects the person holding it. That's why the bag had no opinion. It didn't need one. The whole opinion was already on his face. That's also why I keep coming back to the phrase, "It ain't that cute." He thought he was talking about the clothes. But if we're being honest, that line accidentally reviews the entire situation. The fit, the performance, the half-date, the public confusion, the expensive effort at normalcy, the whole arrangement, all of it, not that cute. And if there's any final pattern worth underlining, it's this. Every time these two get near a normal social ritual, birthday, date, outing, shopping, parenting, reconciliation, celebration, the ritual gets swallowed by the machine surrounding them. Birthdays become think pieces about absence. Dates become streams. Shopping becomes a referendum. Parenting becomes paternity warfare. Apologies become clickbait. Even compliments can't stay compliments for 5 uninterrupted seconds. That's not bad luck. That's a system. And systems don't change because 2 people wore matching blue for one evening. You got the real version. You already know. Like the whole dance, the bell, and the next one's already cooking before this one even cools. Part 2 of the Chrisean Jr. story is loading. We're not done. Fame cryptics.